have an exciting show for you today. We're here with Views of Vernon Hills. I'll look back. What did you call it, Rita?
Back in the
Back
day.
in the day with Rita DePrima. Now, Rita DePrima is the daughter of Vernon Hills' first police chief, Robert Ziegler.
And at the same time, fire marshal.
Oh, he did it all then.
Yeah,
So,
he was both. It's kind of funny. That's how small it was.
well, it was small. So when did you, have you lived in Vernon Hills your whole life, or did you move here for your dad's job, or how did that go?
We lived in Chicago, moved to Mundelein,
Okay.
and we were there, I don't know, I went to Lincoln for half the year,
Okay.
second grade. And then my parents found L&H. We're building homes out here in Vernon Hills. And so it was second grade.
Second grade. And L&H, for those people, if you don't remember the history, that was the first real Vernon Hills. That's when Vernon Hills became Vernon Hills.
Yes.
And it was Barney Loeb and Ben Hogan. Yep.
Ben
I was going to say Ben, but that's like a golfer. And it was right here around Village Hall. And it had, but tell me about the other things that were here, because it wasn't just homes. It was a classy outfit. There was some.
It was.
Yeah.
We had the motel and the supper club and the country club. And it was an 18-hole golf course at that time.
And it drew from all around, because people came out from the city, yeah.
Yes, from Skokie predominantly.
Okay.
It was predominantly a Jewish country club.
Okay, so
at the onset.
And that's unusual too for this area. So,
Yes.
And there wasn't a lot of other things around here, but you guys even had a swimming pool for you neighborhood kids, right?
No.
Well, you went swimming.
We could use it on Mondays when the club was closed.
So they let you come in. So that's better than the rest of the village. Because think about it, the Park District didn't start till like the 70s, I think.
Right.
So you got to use the pool. Did you ever get to go into the restaurant?
Oh yeah, we'd go there for dinner, you know.
And it was fancy, wasn't it?
It was. It would be a special occasion dinner. I had birthday dinners there, I remember.
And you said there was good entertainment there too.
Yes. Well, at the time, like I said, Nat King Cole's brother Ike, Buddy Greco. There was others, and I can't remember them.
Well, and we talked to Barney Loeb, who was one of the founders, the builders of that several years ago, and I asked him, because there's always been rumors of Frank Sinatra sneaking out and doing a show. He said he wouldn't confirm or deny. He had a twinkle in his eye. I don't know what that meant, but I can't ever get anybody to say they saw it. So,
no, I didn't either.
What a neat growing. So you were about second, third grade when you started school at Hawthorne.
Second grade.
So what was the Hawthorne school at that time?
8 rooms. Didn't have the gym, the new addition gym, and so we used the auditorium as our cafeteria, as the gym. It was all-purpose, and like Sunday afternoons, we'd go there for square dancing lessons, which kind of drew all the farm kids, you know.
So it was a kids' thing then. So Sunday afternoon, everybody went back over to school?
There'd be some adults because you had the caller.
Oh, neat.
You know.
Can you still square dance? I bet you could.
I could do a do-si-do, I think, but other than that.
Well, you also said kind of across from the school, there's the silo. We still have at the entrance of town.
At the corner was Mr. Martin's farm, and they kept the silo, and he would let us ride horses. He used to say, if you can catch them, you can ride them. Bareback. He didn't give us saddles or anything. And so we did.
Think about that right there. Now, you know, Town Line 60 is so wide and so busy.
Right.
But back then it wasn't.
It was 2-lane, tree-line, just beautiful.
Well, and you told me even in those days, Butterfield wasn't a big road.
It was gravel, 2-lane gravel.
Road. Yeah, it'd be like a country road.
And there used to be on Butterfield, on the west side, there would be, I think it was a Kodak facility that burned the film.
Oh.
So sometimes you drive past and the smell would be just horrid.
That's interesting. Well,
it was a small building that just burnt film.
Okay.
And then there was the chicken farm, of course, the Cuneo chicken farm.
I didn't realize Cuneo's had so a lot of chickens.
Yeah, it was a farm.
Okay.
You know.
Interesting. Well, Cuneo spanned so far. I mean, think of
Exactly.
Greg's Landing is Cuneo, so it's hard to understand that now when you see all those houses, but that was
and
a
Hawthorne yeah.
Well, think of all the farms that were around here, farms and farmland and fields. And
we used to play in the farm fields, not being aware as a kid that there were mice in those fields. I would have been freaked out, but we would kind of make paths in the cornfields,
Yeah. Well, and when you talk about the kids you're playing with, because really the first neighborhood to start was here right around Village Hall, the L&H.
Just right back here.
Yeah, right back here.
It just kind of went around
and
in
then
a circle.
And then the golf course, which is now smaller. We still have like the 9 holes, but that's smaller. How many kids are we talking, like when you were in school?
Well, the Canagallos lived there. They had 4 girls. The Rats lived there. They had 4 or 5 children. We had 2. We had a lot of young families.
So it was young. That's cool. That's what it does sound like. Young families moved in, raised the kids up, had fun together, did things together.
Barney.
And
gosh, I wish I could remember Hogan's first name. Anyway, they would flood the middle. The houses were around the perimeter, and they would flood the middle in the winter so we could ice skate.
I was going to say, it sounds like
and in the summer
childhood.
we played, 500. We could never get a baseball team together, so we'd just play 500.
Well, and you said that when you were you went through Hawthorne, you had the biggest graduating class to date.
Right.
You were so big they had to start bringing the trailers in. But what year was that, and how many kids?
63, 32 kids.
32 kids. Think about that now, Hawthorne people, when you see how many buildings of kids we have now. And I looked up the census data. In 1960, the Vernon Hills census showed we had 123 people total. So 123 total. 1970, we were up to a big 1,056. So we jumped. And then it started growing. By 1980, we were up to 9827. So we were almost 10,000. So in 10 years, it went up like by 9, and it just continued to grow. So you were there at the beginning, and then all the other developments, and the mall, once the mall came in, and corporate areas where then corporations started putting, instead of farms, there would be big, the corporate parks with all the companies there. It really changed. How did that feel when it changed for you guys? Did you see it coming, or was it?
I didn't live here in the 70s.
So you
my
missed
husband and I, we lived at different places.
Yeah. Well, now let's talk about
when I came back.
Yeah, you were surprised, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You can't find your old landmarks anyway. Can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. As a matter of fact, right across the street here, I'm 45. Where the gas station's located, there used to be a go-kart track there. That was a big entertainment for us.
Really?
We would save our money, to go to the go-kart track.
Oh, that sounds like really fun, too.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
I don't know that there's any remnants anywhere of
it doesn't even, it's hard to even understand where it would be in there. So it's interesting. So right there.
Because the railroad track was right there.
Right. So interesting. So there was a lot of fun stuff going on, even though the town wasn't very big.
Right.
Now, your dad came, and he was the first chief of police and fire marshal. He was dealing with a town that was a lot different. Like you said, no paved roads, no village snowplows coming around. He was probably the first, but probably ran most of the shifts being on duty.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
how did that work?
There was no crime.
Well, yeah.
He did have a squad car, and he had a radar gun, and he used to tell us, "Oh, I always give them 5 miles over," because he'd sit on 45. you know.
And I remember too, people talked about Joanne Corstanzi. So there wasn't like, a lot of, there wasn't 911. You weren't picking
No.
up the phone to call 911 for help.
We have party phone lines.
There was still party. That was always
Yes.
fun too, because you could listen. No, so.
Yes.
So how did that work? What was the system? It wasn't like there were people sitting with dispatch all, 24/7.
There was the trustees. They'd have a board meeting, and I think you do have the picture where my dad's on the end.
Yeah, and we've got one where he's standing by his car. So.
Right.
But my understanding was when there was a call that came in, she'd flip her porch light on so you'd know to come and see what was going on and what somebody needed.
Okay, I don't remember
That's
that
the story I heard, because there was it wasn't a whole big system,
No.
We didn't have Lake Com or all that
No.
stuff,
And if they
so-
tried to call him, the line could be busy.
Well, there you go, so.
Somebody else on the party line. You
Well,
never knew.
and when we think about it too, there was less traffic, less people, less businesses,
Right.
so it was probably, not as busy, but still, the fact he was the first one shows it was time for the village to start staffing up, and what an honor to
That
be the
they
first guy.
became incorporated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. So, well, and Mr. Stordo just showed me that Quinn Hogan, that was
That's
his
it,
name,
Quinn.
Barney
you.
Loeb and Quinn Hogan. I couldn't think
Yes.
of that one, so, yeah. So they really helped start the town, and you were
Right.
right there at the beginning, so.
Yes, but initially they had built the homes on the curve on 45 and Mundelein. Those were their homes.
I didn't know
also.
that, so
Yes.
interesting.
So that little subdivision across from that Dairy Queen in London was their initial footprint, and then they apparently bought the property out here
Well, think about that.
and had bigger plans with the country club and
Right.
the
I mean,
motel.
beautiful.
And like I said, Quinn Hogan's sister lived in the farmhouse with Kathy Kitson, who went to
So
school
all
at
those
Hawthorne,
names,
too.
all those people
We all
that
caught the
started.
bus on 45.
took-
Mr. Prince, the bus driver, who was also our janitor.
A bus driver and janitor.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and there wasn't a deer path at that time, so there wasn't a deer
No.
path drive to cut through. Did you go back to Butterfield to get to school? Okay.
Yeah.
Think about that. There was no Fairway Drive either, because that's also new, going through the VHAC and all that area was
Right,
just
there's nothing. Just-
brambles and nothing right through there.
we used to walk over to, when we were out exploring, we'd walk over to the Nike site,
Yeah.
and it was just all fields.
Did you ever get in those?
No, we
Okay.
never got in. We were just on the,
I've heard people say they got in and they were naughty, so.
no, we were afraid to get in,
Those
to
were
go
those were
that
bi-
far.
and the people that if you don't remember, the Vernon Hills Nike site, the Vernon Hills Athletic Complex was a Nike missile site, and it was giant concrete and big doors, and inside that's where they would keep the missiles. Now the missiles were out of there, or we assume they were out of there, but that's what you were running around looking at all this, and there
Oh,
was
yeah.
even I was up there before they started making the athletic complex, and there were even pieces of runways where the planes would come. It was
Yeah.
kind of spooky. It was
Kinda
a little
spooky.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it was like another world, and so full of
think about-
brush. Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy. So, well, you have some wonderful memories of this town, and I think it's
I
really
do.
important to think about that, because I think especially most of us moved after the boom, and we know Hawthorne Mall, we know all the neighborhoods, we
Yeah.
know all the corporate areas and all the traffic and all of this built up town, but we don't realize it started as a little town, and it started with families like you
Yes.
and people like your dad, who were the first public servants of this town, and people like Barney Loeb and Quinn Hogan, who thought to make this town, and all you guys who moved in. So
Yeah.
we owe you a debt for starting us out right, because it sounds like you had a great time and had a really good
I'm
childhood there.
I'm so grateful for my childhood growing up out here. Of course, going to Libertyville High at high school, we were the country kids, because they all came from a junior high, Highland Junior High, and they were sophisticated.
And you
And
had
we were
little
just
Hawthorne.
these country bumpkin kids,
Yeah.
But I was grateful for that,
Well,
because we had more freedom.
You did have a lot of freedom, and I
We
think
did.
there's something to be said for being, and I'm sure you've been a much more independent spirit because of that, you and all those friends you talked about. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for taking the time to share some of
Well,
those
thank
memories
you,
with us.
Lynn.
Thank you for being somebody who started us out right, because that's the kind of town you want. So thank you so
Yeah.
much. And if you all have any stories about those early days, things that some of us just never get to hear about, the days gone by, please share them and let us know, and we'd love to record that so we can all enjoy it. So thank you for taking the time, Rita. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn.